Elevators are often an overlooked aspect of level design in gaming. Done correctly, they add an ambience to your world that mimics real life or can be an effective set piece to create atmosphere. Done wrong, and it can cause scores of frustrations. I tend to break down elevators in games to two major uses, that being both world building and functional cases. Both of these have examples of both good elevators and bad in the most popular games. If you're anything like me, obsessed with dying malls, you understand that elevators serve as that break from the liminal nature of empty stores and hallways accompanied by the dulcet tones of music. This atmosphere is perfectly captured in games as well and serves to aid in immersing the player in the world in which they are trying to convey. A great example of this is in the popular game Cyberpunk 2077. Elevators aren't just cookie cutter copies of one another. Everything from the state of cleanliness the elevator is in, to the in game advertisements it shows, to even the overall design of the elevator helps immerse the player in whatever environment they are in at the time. Add in that touch of interactivity, even if it is extremely basic, and you have a perfect example of good design. In some cases, you don't even need good elevators in game even. Sometimes a good cinematic elevator is all you need. A great instance of this are the opening sequences to both the popular games BioShock and Batman Arkham Asylum. These sequences both do a perfect job of introducing the story to the player. In one, you're a lone man fighting against all odds, using all the abilities granted to you to thwart a villain who is with you from the beginning, toying with you all along the way to the grand finale. The other one, you're Batman. In other cases, you can have a mix of both good and bad atmospheric elevators, like in the original Half-Life
No!
from 1998. The opening office complex is good for many reasons, some of which deserve their own video, but the elevators within add needed set pieces to increase the tension of the overall feeling of the game and to drive the point home that Black Mesa is absolutely falling apart around you. Conversely, the lift system in the Grunt Factory of Zen does the complete opposite. It's grueling and pace killing to sit on the same three elevators as you spin around while getting picked off by every alien imaginable. Talking about Half-Life's half and half good and bad elevators are a perfect segue into my last point of elevator aesthetics. Frankly, this was also the inspiration for the video alongside Pajama Sam 2 and Inherent Evil's elevator music. Bad elevators. I think the most recent and most egregious example I can think of is in Bethesda's latest RPG mega romp, Starfield, a game about space in which elevators don't take you anywhere and serve only as room transitions. Nothing immerses me more in an experience than interacting with a keypad and seeing a giant menu slap me in the face with only three options to choose from. I could talk at length about Bethesda's design choices and why over time they've gotten worse, because they still depend on an engine from the
It
90s
just
when the
works.
concept of an elevator was mind blowing and only served as level transitions, but that deserves its own video just like Half Life. A lot of times, elevators are more than just an aesthetic choice in video games. In some cases, they've become a key aspect of a level or a key moment in the entire course of the game itself. Take Metal Gear Solid as an example. After having to suffer so much from both torture and getting through Shadow Moses, you would think a calm elevator ride is in order. Nope. Thanks to stolen stealth camo, you are now surrounded and expected to survive against a room full of soldiers. Not to jump back to the previous part on purpose, but the elevators of Metal Gear Solid are honestly the most realistic description and depiction of how elevators work in games and in real life today. Have you ever wondered why? The elevator algorithm, a simple algorithm by which a single elevator can decide where to stop, is summarized as follows. Continue traveling in the same direction while there are remaining requests in that same direction. And if there are no further requests in that direction, then you have to stop and become idle, or you change direction if there are requests in the opposite direction. Moving right along, having well done elevator sequences take time and effort to really nail in more modern titles. One instance I know all too well as being okay to just bad is in Fallout 4. Wow, another Bethesda game in the same video? Near the end of the main story, regardless of which of the four flatter than paper factions you side with, you have to run through the mass fusion building to obtain a beryllium agitator, or in layman's terms, a big MacGuffin. One part of this mission has you riding along in an elevator being shot at from all directions, eerily similar to the earlier example from Half-Life. Or you could If you're going to force the player into a fight like this, have some lore-based reason they can't bring power armor. I hate how much Fallout 4's gameplay is ruined by power armor becoming this absolute juggernaut suit, where before it was something you had to unlock through progression and was just, really good armor. Duke Nukem Forever is a sorry excuse for a game, but it still has a great example of not only bad elevator design, but bad game design in general. For the uninitiated, this sequence involves Duke falling down a shaft with a babe in the car with him. The overall objective is to survive the fall, obviously. Where the challenge lies is in the fact that they tell you nothing. You don't know how far a fall it is or where you're at in the fall. If you hold the brake too much, it'll break, causing death. If you do nothing, that also causes death. It becomes this game of timing, or, in my case, feathering the brake to maintain a slow enough speed to survive. But Sax, that's the point. I hear you all type in the comments. I say no. If they give you some form of indicator of where you are, I would agree. They give you nothing to go off of, so it becomes trial and error. They had 14 years to make this. How hard is it to implement a height/depth meter somewhere? To wrap up here, elevators are still an important aspect of both game and level design, even if those details are often overlooked or passed over. There's no way that this could be considered a fully exhaustive list. There are plenty of examples I have that were missed or I never really experienced for myself. These were just examples that stood out for me, a person whose top 5 games on backlog contain next to no elevators. Looking at you, Kingdom Hearts 2 and Minecraft. Also, a lot of the points I've brought up are all subjective. Maybe you actually like Duke Nukem Forever and its dumb elevator sequence that makes no sense. And to that I ask, who hurt you? I wanted my first video essay to be on a subject nobody talks about. Let me know if you want to see more. I'm still trying to figure out the format for this entire thing too, including me, so I welcome any feedback. If you're interested or even care, I'm also doing a charity live stream November 4th for Extra Life. I'll be doing a complete run of Resident Evil 4 semi-blind over at twitch.tv/saxmaster896. Come on by to watch and tell me the elevator brought you up.